Hi, welcome to Quali's What's New with CloudShell 9.0 webinar. In the next hour or so, I will be going over um, the big features from our latest release, 9.0, which was released about a month ago. I will discuss about the major use cases that this new capabilities in the product are addressing. I'll do a short demonstration of several of those features, and in the end, if time allows, we'll do a short Q&A session. So before we start, short introduction. My name is Dan Michlin. I'm a product manager in Quali. I've been with the company for 5 years, served in various roles. Let's talk for a second about CloudShell and the journey that we've gone with this product already in the past 5 years or so. CloudShell had many versions. We started out with test automation a few years ago, and along version 7, we started a journey into hybrid clouds, essentially bridging the gap between complex physical environments and application. It started with the whole virtualization application initiative for supporting vCenter. And then as we progressed, we also added support for public clouds like AWS. Version 8 brought with it the ability to multi-cloud. We added support for OpenStack as a private cloud provider in CloudShell, and Microsoft Azure for additional public cloud support. And we've also began the journey for standardizing our approach to how we model things in our environment and how we can share them between different users in our community. That was the initiative behind the second generation shells. If you're not familiar with shells, shells are essentially our way to structure the data and automation of everything in CloudShell via a physical device or a virtual application. And now with our latest release 9.0, we are proud to say that now we are actually supporting any cloud. That is due to the fact that we added a cloud provider standard and template. I'll discuss more about that shortly. And essentially now you can bring your own cloud to the game. It's a new public cloud that you are using or a private cloud that you are developing or using as a service. You can now add that as an open source to our community and use that in your deployment, or benefit and leverage from community cloud providers that our CloudShell community are developing. Another big thing that we added in 9.0 is the Sandbox lifecycle. It's actually an enhancement and a new approach to the way we handle the entire lifecycle of the environment. If up until now, when we could model an environment as a blueprint, some sort of a template that you can consume or expose to your users, and then those the users will be able to reserve this blueprint into a sandbox, work on it for the developing, testing, demoing use case that they needed, and in the end tear it down. Now with Sandbox Lifecycle, we actually enhance the capabilities that the end user can do. I'll talk about that more in the next slide. So let's go more in depth into the Sandbox Lifecycle Orchestration. Sandbox Lifecycle Orchestration are essentially our take on the whole enhancing the user experience and how they are managing their productivity and their work. It touches on many aspects of how to operate and manage sandboxes. And we started up with the save and restore. Save and restore, essentially, as you can see in the diagram here, is the ability to take an active sandbox and take some sort of a snapshot of its current state, save it aside for the user, and then continue working, ending his reservation in his sandbox. And after that, he can go back to it after a week, a month, depending on the requirements of the use case, and just restore the save sandbox that he set aside, and it will be restored back to the same state as that it was when he left it. So you now have a new capability, a very powerful capability that allows you to actually sort of say, I need to take a save state of this sandbox that I'm currently working on because I'm about to do a major change into my development environment, or I'm working on this complex demo and I want to be able to revert back to it when I need it. And just by clicking a very simple action, a save button, you'll be able to save it aside, and again, you review it later in the analytics section with all the information and restore it as easy as you can by like reserving a sandbox. Maybe I'll do a short demo at this point. So let's switch over to my environment. So what you're seeing here, this is our latest release, CloudShell 9.0. And here you can browse the new blueprints catalog and see whatever environment that you'd like to do. And here I already set up a save and restore environment that enables me that the save action is enabled for it. This is the blueprint, and you'll be able to see that in here in the properties page, you now have the ability to toggle the enable sandbox save. It's per blueprint, and you can enable it per specific blueprint, or define it per user, how many save sandboxes is he allowed to do. Once this is ticked, if we go to the sandbox which I already reserved, you'll be able to see that once the sandbox is in an active state, it finished the setup. You see I have one application here. It's a Windows server on our vCenter. All I need to do is, let's say that I'm working on it. At this point I want to stop, and I want to be able to go for a week on my PTO and then revert back to it without hogging the resources and taking compute and storage from the company's resources. All I need to do is just click here on Save Sandbox. This will open up this UI that enables me to state the name of my Save Sandbox. Let's give it a meaningful name. Can also add a description to it if I want to, and just hit save. At this point, the sandbox will change into a saving state. You can see it here. Like the setup and the turn on state, this is a view only state that I cannot interact with the sandbox at this point. I cannot run any automation commands. I cannot add or modify it because it actually takes the exact snapshot of my sandbox. It will actually, behind the scene, it will clone the vCenter VM into a new clone, so I'll be able to multiple restore it at a later time, and it will not be affected if I end this reservation at this point. So the saving operation will take a few minutes, depending on, of course, on the size of the sandbox and on your vCenter. But let's take a look, since I already pre-saved some of my work, and you can see here that under the sandbox page tab, I now have a new section for saved. If I click it, you can see that I already created a save sandbox here. Version 1, I gave it some description. I am the owner. I can see when it was created, what was the initiating source sandbox, and what was the initiating source blueprint. And at this point, I can actually end my original sandbox. I can go for a month, two, whatever I want. How long do I want? And whenever I want to, I can just come back, view all my saved sandboxes. This is actually saved per user, so only the end user can see his saved sandboxes, or of course the administrator of this domain. And at this point, I can just click here, and I can simply restore the saved sandbox. I can select how long I want to do it and give it a meaningful name if I want to. And by clicking restore, it will actually take the exact save state that I was. And you can see here I have a new application, but it kept all the original metadata that I have, and it will essentially deploy the application in the exact same state as I left it. At this point, it will simply go into a setup state and continue my work once it's ended. A few important bullets about this capability. In version 9.0, it's applicable to virtual sandboxes based on vCenter Cloud Provider. You can restore saved sandboxes multiple times, and it's not tied into the originating save sandbox. That is due to the fact that we are actually cloning all the application and disconnecting it from the originating application that was deployed. You can, of course, as I said, limit the amount of saved sandbox per user, and you can decide if it's something you want to enable per blueprint or not. And it comes with a full set of APIs to get all the information of all the saved sandboxes, restore it, and deleting it. It is important to mention that if I delete a saved sandbox, it will actually clean all the clones VM that I created in vCenter. So we actually take ownership of all the artifacts that we produce along with the save state. Okay, so that was the sandbox lifecycle. In the coming versions, we are going to enhance this capability. 9.1 will bring it with it the ability to save hybrid sandboxes, including physical devices and their connection state. And as we progress and as we get more feedback from our community, we will enhance this capability more and more. For example, supporting public clouds for cost management more, and publishing a saved sandbox to blueprints and more. So this is also your chance to affect this and contact us via the idea box that I'll show a link later on, and just provide or just email me danam@quali.com with any feedback you'd like about this capability, and I'll be happy to review it and take it into consideration. So the next big item on the list is the cloud provider standard. I've mentioned this in the beginning. Version 9.0 essentially brings the ability to support any cloud. This is a very big, we believe this is a very big impact on our existing customers and also any new customers that will use CloudShell. We come across more and more with new clouds out there, whether it's a new public clouds or a new private cloud that someone developed and are providing as a service. And essentially, we see more and more the request to be able to support any cloud beyond what we currently support. So today, CloudShell support out of the box is for vCenter and OpenStack for private clouds, and AWS and Azure for public clouds. Now, essentially, with Cloud Provider Standard, we're using the same mechanism as our shells, and provide a new standard and a template that enable you to very easily create a new cloud provider according to a defined standard, add any type of relevant information, attributes, and automation attached to it, and adding it to CloudShell and using it as though it was any other cloud provider that we support. And I'll maybe do a short demonstration of how that looks. So as I mentioned, the whole mechanism works similar to our second generation shell. And in order to use those shells, you should, and we recommend that you use Shell Foundry. Shell Foundry is our CLI tool that we developed in order to facilitate and assist with shell development in general. It provides you with an interface into creating new shells based on the standard that we provide. Those are Tosca-based standard. In here you can actually create new shells, modify them, and in the end install them into your CloudShell installation. Now, at this point, it's important to mention that all the information on how to actually develop shells in general and cloud provider as well is located in our developer guide. I'll add the link here and also in the end. The shell development guide is a very comprehensive guide for anyone who wants to develop and extend his CloudShell. Via it with shells or orchestration scripts, configuration management, and latest with our cloud provider support. So we added a new dedicated section that gives you an end-to-end guide on how to actually develop a new cloud provider, how to get started, what you should do, and depending if it's a private cloud or public cloud, what should you model and how you should handle the network connectivity. And so if you are interested in developing a new cloud provider, I strongly recommend to start here. But let's say you already went through this process and now you want to create a new cloud provider. Essentially the process is fairly simple and straightforward. All you need to do is type Shell Foundry new, give it a meaningful name, and then say that you are planning to use the cloud provider template. You can see here the syntax for the command. All I need to do is just run it, and what it will do, it will essentially create here a new project for my new template. It will take a second. You can see that I already created one beforehand. I won't go into all the detailed instruction about it. You see I already created a new one, so it should now be here. Let's take a look at here. So what essentially it enables you to do, it provides using a very straightforward standard based on YAML, the ability to define exactly what are the information that you want with the cloud provider, how are you planning to use the deployment, and you can use various deployment paths, which is a new capability that was added specifically for this. And after you're done, you can actually install it into your CloudShell installation very simply by clicking Shell Foundry install here. See, it will now connect to my server and install the new shell. If I go here to my local installation, you'll see that now in the shell section I have here a new the new cloud provider here. Like all our shell or our second generation shell, I can manage it. If I have an updated version, I can update it and remove it. I can see more information about it. I can add more attributes to it, and so on and so on. At this point, all I need to do is just go ahead and create my new cloud provider in source, same as we do for any of our other shells and any other cloud provider. I can, of course, if I added more attributes and more information to it, it would ask me at this point. But then all I need to do, it will just run an autoload and add that cloud provider to my installation. At this point, I can start deploying application templates based on that cloud provider. So again, the big change here is that now essentially we support any cloud. As part of this development, we actually added support for the Oracle Infrastructure Cloud, the OCI. This should be in our community, and we will add more and more cloud providers as we progress, as our community grows, and start seeking out new cloud providers to consume for their deployments. So that was the cloud provider standard. Other capabilities that we recently added to the system is the ability to better manage how you share and how you interact with the domain for users. We actually enhanced 2 capabilities in order to do that. This is actually something that came from our ID box. We'll show it later, as well as other IDs that we implemented from our community that was suggested. Essentially what we did is we enhanced the ability to share blueprints and sandboxes. Up until now, we had a sort of a limitation in or a gap in the product, that if you would send the user a direct link to your sandbox and he was not in the same domain as that sandbox or blueprint, it would simply get a notification that it doesn't exist. And now actually when you do it, you get this new message saying that this will redirect you to a different domain, and you have the user has the ability, if he wants to change his current active domain, or stay in or stay where he is. So this makes the whole process of sharing sandboxes between users much more simplified. All I need to do is just send him a direct link, and I don't care if he's already logged into that domain or not. He will be redirected to the correct place. Another thing that we did was, and that's something that several of our customers were asking for, is the ability to enable directing a user to a specific domain from the sign-in. So that's something that we added to our single sign-in, using essentially any identity provider that you use. You can now pass on a domain attribute. Everything I'm saying, of course, is documented in our online help@quality.com. I'll also share the link with that after. And essentially, by adding a new domain attribute, now you can verify that the user will actually go to a specific domain. So let's say that you have several domains that are relating to several projects or several groups, and you want to make sure that when a user logs into the system, he's redirected to the relevant one. You now also have that ability from your identity provider using our SSO mechanism. Additional features and ideas that we got from the ID box. A minute before that, if you are not familiar with our ID box, I strongly encourage you to take a look at it. It's essentially your direct line to our product management team. You can post new ideas here. Just need to be a member of our quality community. It's free, and it's very easy to register. And any idea or any enhancement that you think might benefit your journey in CloudShell, you can share with us. We are regularly going over it and monitoring it. We are constantly asking questions to make sure that we understand the exact value and what you want to achieve with that, and how can you achieve that in a way that will benefit all of our existing customer base. You can see we have multiple items here. We already delivered quite a few, and we make sure that we update everything here and enable you to get in touch directly with the product team, get answers, suggest things, and you can see here immediately that we are taking a lot of very useful ideas that our community is providing and and implementing them directly in the product. So in version I know, we had several of those. We got a request for enhancing our AWS cloud provider to support IAM roles for application. For those of you who are using AWS, this is a very nice feature that enables you to give different permission roles for the deployed application that you are using. Shell Foundry, which you just saw, now adds an offline mode. If you are not connected to an internet, which in some cases that's the case, you have the ability now to work offline, and you don't need the Shell Foundry essentially pulls the templates from our GitHub repository, and again they are all open source, and you can now take this information offline and work and develop shells even if you don't have internet connection. QualiX, we released a new version 2.6. QualiX is our ways to interact with our Sandbox content. It enables you to our remote connect SSH or telnet into any device or application. And in version 2.6, we added several performance enhancement and support for TLS 1.2. Another very nice addition that we recently added is the auto discovery tool. It's based on our out-of-the-box shells and standard. Our auto discovery tool essentially is a CLI tool that we developed that enables you to scan your entire lab using SNMP and essentially discover any device that you have within the range that you specify, including connection and vendor and specific versions. And if there are already one of our supported shells in our integration, it will automatically add them to CloudShell. This is very useful for when you have big labs that you want to be able to ramp up very quickly and add them to CloudShell. By using this automation, you can do it very quickly and very and see value very fast. The SNMP recorder, this is more for shell development. This is some sort of an internal tool that we've been using, and we decided to expose it as an open source. Essentially enables you to record MIBs from any device and develop the automation for any shell very fast. The documentation for this will be available in our help shortly. And also we added a new process for migrating layer 1 drivers from our old based Python and Tcl templates to our new one. Gives you the ability to upgrade and work with our new template infrastructure there. Again, I do encourage you to go and visit our community and provide suggestions, see what other users in the community have asked for, vote, comment, whatever you like. We are, as I mentioned, monitoring it and seeing what's the biggest item in the community that we need to and want to enhance in the product. So I've talked briefly about the developer guide regarding the cloud provider standard, but we also added a very deep dive section in 9.0 for shells development, which now includes shell development videos. Those will also be available in the university for the administrative course. If you're not familiar with the Quality University, it's our learning platform that you can take online courses in how to develop new shells, how to be an administrator in CloudShell, and how to create blueprints. I strongly encourage you also to visit the Quality University. can find it in courses at quali.com. You need to be a member in our community to be able to log in. Once you do, you can see actually all the courses that we offer. The Quali University also includes and actually showcasing it all the available videos that we have, all the help information that you need in order to work with CloudShell, and also all the detailed developer information and API guide as well, including installation and so on. Strongly recommend anyone using CloudShell to visit the Quali University and enjoy all this very amazing work that our product and documentation team are doing. So as I mentioned, in the new developer guide, we also have videos now that explains the bit about concept of how to develop new shells. I encourage you to go ahead and try it out. If you are an existing customer and you want to taste this and try this new capabilities, you can contact us for our customer success team and ask for a demonstration of these capabilities or try to install it on your environment and test these new capabilities. Or if you are who's just interested in using CloudShell for your needs, for your complex environment, and you want to simplify this process, you can ask for a live technical demo by using this link here. Someone from our sales team will get in touch with you and be happy to answer all your questions and provide you with a deep dive technical demonstration. So that was it for this release. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I had in developing it. So at this point, we'll stop, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them using the appropriate link in the GoToWebinar. We'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.